Hey everyone, it's Flaxative.
And CT5.
And Inkfingers.
And we are here, the three of us, bringing you the results of the 2016 Halloween Aloyzo's Arsenal. Special guest Inkfingers obviously joining us. Very excited to have him with us.
Mm-hmm.
The Halloween competition is very near and dear to my heart, so happy to be here for this very relevant time of the year.
Yeah. As you may all know, the winners of this month's contest, will be added to the Halloween store permanently. So every year, the 5 items that we pick today will show up in the store to be bought by anyone celebrating Halloween in game, in addition to the normal rewards from Aloyzo's Arsenal. So it's very exciting, and we get some new monster cards on player items, which is also always fun.
Woo!
We'll take it away?
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to start with a few items that didn't win, but that we liked a lot. Here's Vermilion Ocean's Magic Gnome Dagger. I think Vermilion Ocean did a really good job using only cards that the Wild Gnome has, so it's a very tight design. I think this is really great.
Yeah, there isn't much to say. It's very well designed. Everything fits. Everything feels good.
It's got some very interesting strategic play. I think it would be interesting to see a lot of... It's two cowardly attacks, which makes it really, really scary. Once you see one of the cards from this item, you're like, oh, I cannot turn my back to that character.
Yeah.
So...
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, we're trying to save cards like Cowardly Attack for the design space of rogues, if we ever get around to putting them in the game. But I think this is a really nicely designed item. And cool to see Reflexive Teleport on a warrior item.
Yeah. Next is Lamona's Fancy Wedding Shoes.
Which... clearly would be an excellent addition to any wedding guest's foot attire. I love it when people make items that use cloth armor to represent like the non-combat utility of the item, so to speak. I feel it's very evocative of the idea of a wedding guest, and then the Scamper and the Scatter just both invoking the idea of that AI expansion.
Yeah, Scatter is basically Whirlwind allies, right? Which players don't have right now. We just have Whirlwind enemies and Whirlwind everyone. And this is actually like old school Whirlwind. So, in theory, you could get some really weird results from this card, right? Pretty tempting, but there was some stiff competition. So good job, Lamona. Nice item.
Next, we have Brock Ritzy's Lizardman Spear, which is another item that does an excellent job of using only cards that appear in the monster in question.
Yeah. It's a nice low-level stab weapon that's still somewhat of a niche that needs to be filled.
The poison spear stab is interesting in that it's not actually that much more powerful than equivalent stabs, but it does bring poison back into the game, which is something that hasn't been around for a while. Yeah.
So I think we might still have a poisoner's harness or something with the Curse of Fragility on it. I like this one. It's a little more total damage than the Trickster's Spear. Trickster's Blade, the one with all the tricky stabs.
Yeah, once again, it's a very tight, solid design.
Yeah, very nice. And then this one, when we were putting the video together initially, I think CT5 and Inkfingers were like, who's Bopsy? Bopsy is one of Mom's figures, the bashing dwarf. And Bopper is a very good name for both who Bopsy is and a bashing item.
Yeah.
So
it sounds like the name that Mom would actually give to the piece of equipment.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I think this is really lovely Mania Fig. Definitely one of the coolest submissions in my mind this month. And like who wouldn't want to be Bopsy? There's also, I think, like this is a good 2 major token bashing item, and there aren't a lot of those, right? Like bashes, I think we increased all the damage on bashes a couple years ago, but I think the bash items are still like usually a little overvalued. This I would play this, so I think it's sweet that Maniafig was able to both do a really tight design that's themed really well and make a competitive item.
Yeah, I mean, it's the issue is that bashes have their own internal anti-synergy kind of.
Yeah.
Because they remove people from your range when you play them.
Yeah.
So they're really good as finishers. But this is a solid bashing item. I would
Yeah.
run that.
Yeah.
Comes with the all-out attack to turn your Shambling Bash into a finisher, right?
Exactly. Woo!
Yeah. All right, I think we're moving on to winners. Oh, hey!
And surprise! Inkfingers wins again with a Trogforged junk plate.
What can I say? I care a lot about Halloween.
So, just as a heads up as we move through the winners, some of you may be like, wait, that token cost or that rarity doesn't make sense given the cards that are displayed. Well, in the case of the Trogforged junk plate and a couple other items, as was the case last year, we're going to be changing some rarities and qualities of some of the monster cards to make them more in line with other player cards. In this case, we would be making crude plates a rare and bumping up its quality such that this item would be a minor token. But yeah, I imagine a lot of players are really excited to play with crude plates.
I know I am. It's
Oh, clearly.
a long time desire of mine. It's got a lot of gameplay opportunities where you can make builds that do really interesting things with intending to get knocked away from your opponent.
Yeah.
Setting up for charges or leaping back in with step attacks. There's a lot of cool ways you can turn.
Or
it.
laser whip.
Laser
right?
whip.
Yeah. So this is the first item that we're looking at where not all of the cards appear on the monster. And I think that it works in this case because, you're not a troglodyte, right? And if you're actually putting on a troglodyte's armor as your Halloween costume, it's going to be ill-fitting, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think it's pretty clever.
Yeah, it's got the thick hide because you've got the troglodyte hide that you've clearly stitched into some kind of horrible freakish suits and it's all there.
Yeah. Well, congratulations, Inkfingers, if you're watching this.
Best part about crude plates? Nimble Strike gets right around it.
Yeah. No, I like that vulnerability too.
No, yeah.
Because it
Yeah.
adds an additional element to strategic play.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, if you didn't have that, I think it would be a much less interesting card.
Yeah.
All right, let's go on to Kobold Butter's Robes of Geomancy.
It's another thing that I love. Geomancy.
Yeah, there's a lot of terrain cards in the game. For players, there aren't a lot of cards that support terrain cards. This might actually be the first. Everlasting Ground, we would bump up the rarity and quality, but basically, unlike Blooming Ground, which has been submitted to Aloyzo's arsenal more times than I care to recount, I think that this card is actually like pretty fair and non-problematic. Like it just extends the terrain you've already made. It doesn't make
it doesn't turn the map
right
into a terrain playground.
It doesn't create exponentially more terrain.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be really interesting once we see this new expansion come out, and there's some interesting terrain mechanics in that one that this will help accentuate in fun ways.
Yeah, it could also be really fun with some of the Sky Citadel terrain, the beacons and stuff. Getting some more juice out of those. Mm-hmm. And it's really well themed, really tight design. I mean, like, the Geomancers have these cards, and
again, it's an excellent use of cloth armor to signify like non-combat attire. These are robes that have robe-like qualities. They're not made of armor; they're made of cloth.
Yeah. So great job, Kobold Butter! Congratulations. We really like your item.
Voltamento's Forsaken Earrings. the Blood Priest, all 3 items, once again, very, very
Mhm.
tight thematic design.
Yep.
And as Inkfingers was talking about earlier, Open Wound will be a very nice little item thing to have
Yeah.
for all the heals that are going around.
Healing priests have been really, really, really strong in the meta recently,
Mhm.
and seeing Open Wound enter the card selection options for players, I think is going to be really, really interesting in that it's basically a hard counter to all those greater heals that people have been throwing around recently.
Yeah, and you can get 9 of these in a team pretty easily. It's just a minor token rare. Basically, if the environment would ever get to a point where there's way too many people running whatever 20 greater heal parties, you just put 9 of these in your deck, and you have a pretty good chance of killing a character, right?
Yeah.
It lets you lock down kills a
Yeah.
lot more easily than other things that exist.
Yeah.
So I like that.
Yeah, and it's another kind of attachment that priests get. You know, every single additional kind of attachment that they get like increases a priest's, like a utility priest's ability to push off attachments and do all sorts of manipulation. I'm really happy with it. I think the 10 range might be a bit extreme, but we can change that if we need to.
And I don't actually recall perfectly, but if I am remembering correctly, another beautiful little tidbit about this item is that the priest in question is actually wearing earrings.
Yep,
So
definitely is.
A nice-
Definitely is.
a nice little bit
Yeah.
of reference to the figure itself,
Yeah.
which I appreciate.
Oh, also, just a note for any panicked viewers, Open Wound does have a duration. I don't know why this particular card image doesn't. This is the image that's on the wiki. It doesn't have a duration. The card has a duration in the game.
Okay.
So this isn't like a permanent no healing.
Yeah, that would be a little bit too much.
Yeah, a little
Yeah.
bit. Especially if you're running one of those builds where it's like, I've only got 2 kinds of traits in my deck and no purges. Yeah. I'm also really excited for Open Wound. I think it's going to be a good tech card against vampires coming up. Vampires are getting a lot of new toys.
Oh yeah.
And we're trying to make sure that those aren't super overpowered. Some of you may be playtesting on the test server and know that some cards are a little too strong right now. We're going to try to bring down that level, but also Open Wound is just a nice failsafe, right? Like, it's never going to be so strong and useful that it dominates the environment and you can't run vampires. But if vampires get too strong, it's there. So I think that's really good. Congratulations, Voltalmento, on winning. And moving on.
This has been a long time coming.
Yay!
Seth Aru's Reinforced Dwarf is finally going to be added to the game.
Yep.
And I could not be more pleased.
We've seen this before. First originally submitted as a boot. Probably
Yep.
as Aaron, I think. But now it's finally in.
Yeah, no, it's what it says on the tin. You have a dwarf. You reinforce it. Now it's a reinforced dwarf. It's,
Ta-da!
I have no more words for this.
Yeah.
It's too beautiful.
No, it's really great. You know, it's I think it's a good item, and you know, it's a common, so
Everyone can be a dwarf.
everyone can be a dwarf. And
Yes.
also, if you're going through a campaign like this is likely to pop up, you get your 2 immovables and the solid wood, and that's cool. And like,
Yeah.
if you're not fighting fire imps or whatever, it's actually not
Yeah,
bad
it's very
armor, right?
reasonable.
No, it's this is good. It's a good
Yeah.
card.
Yeah.
It's very reasonable, yeah.
If you don't want to run blind rage, but you want the traits,
Right.
this is actually like a solid replacement for like Raging Battler, and it's common, so you don't actually have to look for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, congratulations, Seth. And our final winner is Hesslicker Bob's Guztuck's Giant Cutter.
Definitely the most brutal of all of the ones that we've seen so far
Yeah.
in terms of sheer damage output. Also gives us the fun toy of Unstoppable Chop to play with. So all of those parry warriors can quail in fear as we systematically hack through their defenses.
Yeah.
They do still get the card draw, but it's a lot of value.
Yeah.
They also get to laugh at us when we clumsy chop them to check for blocks, right?
Yeah.
Actually, I guess this is the item where you check for blocks with your high quality card and only attack with your low quality card when you know that they don't have blocks.
Yeah.
Beware the life-saving block.
Yeah, and as we were discussing earlier too, before we started filming this, Massive Chop is really, really interesting on warriors specifically because warriors have so much more to lose with their blocks than priests typically do.
Yeah, just because warriors have more blocks, right?
Yeah.
They usually have more better blocks that are more reliable, and you give that up to some extent with Massive Chop in your hand.
Yeah, and then priests also, like you run a priest with Massive Chop, they can hang back and then wait until an enemy walks up to them and Massive Chops them.
Yeah.
The warrior wants to be close, especially a warrior with this item needs to be at range 1 already, which means they're making themselves vulnerable to attacks through blocks that may not work because of those Massive Chops. Yeah,
no, I think it's really cool, and might go without saying, but all of these cards are on Guztuk, the Goblin King. Really tight design. I think Unstoppable Chop is going to be really interesting for folks, and this is, I think, the rarest item of the batch of winners, which is suitable for Unstoppable Chop.
Yeah,
it's gonna be a good batch, I think. Huge congrats to all the winners. I think it was a really good Aloyzo's Arsenal, actually.
It was really good.
I was really satisfied with the quality of a lot of these submissions.
Yeah. There were a lot of good ones that we haven't mentioned yet, and we just want to give a shout out to a few more of our favorites, whether or not they were, good enough to put in the game or too strong to put in the game. We really appreciated some of these, and this is the list.
The thing that I really wanted to call out on this one is when I was going through the items, looking at all of the different submissions before the contest ended, the one item that really leapt out at me was the Chief Thief Knife, which leapt out at me because I wanted in my heart of hearts for it to actually have been pronounced Chief Thief Knife. Which I just think would have been, like, if the English language was just a little bit different, that item would be so much better. Which I know we can't change the English language yet, but
I mean, we can change the language, but we can't convince everyone to, the second they see the item name, mispronounce it the way we do, right?
Yeah, it's true. It's true. We can change how we say it.
Yeah.
I just want to say, like, Lichard's Ring of Renovation really, got my heartstrings. Like, I put a lot of I put a lot into the Acquisitions Incorporated expansion and designing that boss battle and seeing the redecorate on an item. It felt good. So, yeah. Well, congrats to everyone.
Yeah.
Everyone who entered, congrats, because you did an amazing job. And the competition for the top 5 slots was really tough. There were a lot of really great items, like those first 4 we mentioned, and some more that honestly could have won any other Aloyzo's Arsenal and gotten into the game. Well, I guess not because they have a monster card on them, but like the quality of the design. You know what I'm saying?
It wasn't a thing where you were at a lot, you were trying to like pick the ones that worked. You were trying to pick the best of a very, very good set of items.
Yeah. And with only 5 slots, I still felt like, oh man, I have to cut so many great items. I didn't feel like I was like reaching to fill the slots. So that's a great feeling. I feel like overall, like just looking back exactly a year to Aloyzo's Arsenal 3, which was the last Halloween one, I think. There were so many bogus submissions to that one. Like, it's really clear that the community has learned a lot, and you're all becoming better designers. And that's exciting to me because I don't just run this to get more items in the game. Like, I can always make more items. I run this because it's a fun event, and I look forward to you all having a better idea of how to make content for Card Hunter or other games, and it's really great to see that happening.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Very steady, consistent improvement.
Yeah.
It's great.
Yeah, so these items will go into the game hopefully mid-October alongside Halloween maps, Halloween figures, Halloween store,
And Aloyzo's Arsenal 13.
and Aloyzo's Arsenal 13, yeah, which Aloyzo's Arsenal 13 will drop from Mauve Manticore. Aloyzo's Arsenal 14 will not. It will only be in the Halloween store. But of course, the winners of the contest will each receive their own item as per usual, as well as an epic chest. And, stay tuned beyond this contest. Hopefully by the end of the month, we can bring you an even more exciting Halloween update than we have the last couple of years. And if you want to get a glimpse of that, get on the test server. Some really exciting stuff, I think. So, yeah. All right. With that, I guess we'll end the video. Thanks for watching, and happy hunting.
Mm-hmm.